arch. Between these are two pedestals on which are the images of San Joaquin and Santa Anna, and two niches, containing San José and Saint John the Baptist. Above the cornices are three other pedestals supporting the three saints, Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael, and above Saint Michael. In the midst of cherubim and seraphim is a representation of the Eternal Father. The space between the upper part of the altar and the roof is covered with a painted crimson curtain held by saints and angels. The tabernacle in the centre of the altar is of rose-colored marble, in which the image is deposited, and all the ornaments of the altar are of gilt bronze and zinc. Besides the collegiate and the parish church, there are at Guadalupe the church of the Capuchin nuns, and the churches of the Hill and the Well, all in such close conjunction that the whole village or city, as it calls itself, seems altogether some religious establishment or confraternity, belonging to these temples and churches, united in the worship of the Virgin, and consequent upon the miraculous apparition manifested to the chosen Indian, Juan Diego. I regret not having known till lately that there exists in Mexico a convent of Indian nuns, and that each nun, when she takes the veil, wears a very superb Indian dress, the costume formerly worn by the cacicas, or ladies of highest rank. I went some days ago with the Señorita F a to visit a house for insane women in the Calle de Canoa, built in 1698 by the rich congregation of El Salvador. The institution is now in great want of funds, and is by no means to be compared with the establishment of San Hipólito. The directress seems a good kind-hearted woman, who devoted herself to doing her duty, and who is very gentle to her patients, using no means but those of kindness and steadiness to subdue their violence. But what a life of fear and suffering such a situation must be! The inmates look poor and miserable, generally speaking, and it is difficult to shake off the melancholy impression which they produce on the mind. We were particularly struck by the sight of one unfortunate woman of the better class, who, with her long hair all dishevelled and eyes sparkling with a wild light, stood at the open window of her cell, where for the present they are obliged to confine her, and who poured forth the most piteous lamentations, and adjured every one who passed, in the most pathetic terms, to restore her husband and children to her. One girl was singing cheerfully, one or two women were sewing, but most of them were sitting crouched on the floor, with a look of melancholy vacancy. The poor are admitted gratis, and the richer classes pay a moderate sum for their board. To turn to a very different theme, we continue to go to the opera, certainly the most agreeable amusement in Mexico, and generally to the Minister's box in the centre. Last evening Belisario was repeated, but with less splendour than on its representation in honour of Santa Anna. We expect to leave this on the 16th, going in a diligence as far as Toluca, where a Mexican officer, Colonel Y, has kindly promised to meet us with mules and horses. M. le Comte de B and Mr. W, secretaries of the French and English legations, have made arrangements for accompanying us as far as Valladolid, with which agreeable travelling companions we may reasonably expect a pleasant journey. Last Sunday was the festival of All Saints. On the evening of each day we walked out under the portales, with M. and Madame de , Minister and his wife, to look at the illumination, and at the numerous booths filled with sugar skulls, etc., temptingly ranged in grinning rows, to the great edification of the children. In general, there are crowds of well-dressed people on the occasion of this fête, but the evening was cold and disagreeable, and though there were a number of ladies, they were enveloped in shawls and dispersed early. The old women at their booths, with their cracked voices, kept up the constant cry of "Skulls! Niñas! Skulls!" But there were also animals done in sugar, of every species, enough to form specimens for a Noah's Ark. 14th. We leave this the day after to-morrow, and shall write from our first halting place; and as on our return we shall do little more than pass through Mexico, we are almost taking leave of all our friends. Were I to tell you all the kindness and hospitality, and cordial offers of service that we receive, and the manner in which our rooms, albeit the rooms of an inn are filled from morning till night, it would seem an exaggeration. One acquaintance we have made lately, whom we like so much that we have been vociferously abusing the system of faire part in this city, since, owing to the mistake of a servant, we have until now been deprived of the pleasure of knowing her. The mistake is rectified at the 11th hour. The lady is the Señora de G z P.A., one of the most accomplished and well informed women in Mexico, and though our friendship has been short, I trust it may be enduring. 2 evenings since we went with the Señora de C s to an amateur concert, and I question whether in any capital of Europe so many good amateur voices could be collected. I do not speak of the signs of cultivation, though the hostess, the Señora A, has a perfect method. But yesterday we spent a most agreeable evening in a delightful family reunion at the house of Señor N. del B o. It was strictly limited to the family relations, and was, I believe, his jour de fête. If all Mexican society resembled this, we should have too much regret in leaving it. The girls handsome, well educated, and simple in their manners and tastes; the Countess a model of virtue and dignity; then so much true affection and love of home amongst them all; so much wealth, and yet good taste and perfect simplicity visible in all that surrounds them. Mexico is not lost as long as such families exist, and though they mingle little in society, the influence of their virtues and charities is widely felt. This morning C n had an audience of the new president. He also paid a visit to General Bustamante, who is still at Guadalupe, and preparing for his departure. He will probably sail in the Jason, the man of war which brought us to Vera Cruz, and it is probable that we shall leave the republic at the same period. The Dowager Marquesa de Vivanco, who in consequence of ill health has not left her house for months, was among our visitors this morning. Today Count C a dined here, and brought for our inspection the splendid sword presented by Congress to General Valencia, with its hilt of brilliants and opals, a beautiful piece of workmanship, which does credit to the Mexican artificers. He was particularly brilliant and eloquent in his conversation today; whether his theories are right or wrong, they are certainly entrainant. Our next letters will probably be dated from Toluca. End of letter the 47th.